The alarm bells rang through the halls of Meridian Prime at exactly 0600 Galactic Standard Time. Ji-won woke from her sleep in her small quarters, her heart's racing. She was a Velthrin, with smooth blue skin and 4 arms that moved quickly as she dressed. The emergency signal meant only one thing. Something terrible had happened. She ran through the corridors of the massive space station. Other aliens rushed past her, all heading toward the council chamber. Ji-won had served as an ambassador for 12 years, but she had never seen this many people running with such fear on their faces. When she reached the Great Hall, hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy were already there, talking loudly and pointing at the giant screens on the walls. Silence. Director Hyan-woo's voice boomed through the chamber. He was a tall being from the ancient Krell species, his scales shimmering under the lights. "We have a situation. Humanity has gone dark." The room fell quiet. Ji-won felt her stomach drop. Humanity? The humans were everywhere in the galaxy. They talked constantly, traded with everyone, explored every corner of space. They were loud, curious, and impossible to ignore. How could they go dark? Hyun-woo touched a control panel, and the screens changed. They showed communication logs, thousands of them, all from human worlds and ships. "These are the last transmissions we received from human space. Routine traffic, shopping lists, love letters, news broadcasts." Then, 3 hours ago, everything stopped. Every single human signal across the galaxy went silent at the same moment. Minho, a young analyst from the data center, stepped forward. He was short and wore thick glasses that made his eyes look huge. "Sir, we've checked every channel, every frequency. Nothing. We sent automated probes to human territories. They reached the border of human space, and then they disappeared. Just like that. No explosion, no wreckage. They're just gone." Ji-won raised one of her hands. What were the humans doing before the silence? Was there any warning? Minho pulled up more data on the screens. "That's the strange part, Ambassador. Everything was normal. Completely normal. On Earth, people were watching entertainment programs. On Mars, factories were running their night shifts. On the colony world Harmony, there was a children's festival happening. Then all transmissions stopped at exactly the same second across billions of light years. A reptilian delegate from the Kreth Empire stood up. Perhaps they were attacked. The humans made many enemies with their constant expansion. We considered that, Hyun-woo said, his voice tired. But there's no evidence of any attack. No weapons fire detected. No distress signals. Nothing to suggest violence. They were just there, and then they weren't. Nari, the station's chief scientist, entered the chamber carrying a portable device. She was a Lumine, her body almost transparent and glowing softly. "Director, I've found something. May I present?" Hyun-woo nodded, and Nari connected her device to the main system. The screens filled with swirling patterns of energy. This is the border of human space. All along their territories, from every angle, there's this energy signature. It's like a wall or a barrier. I've never seen anything like it. It's not a weapon. It's not a shield. It's something else entirely. Ji-won stared at the patterns. They moved in ways that hurt to watch, folding and unfolding in impossible directions. "Can we get through it?" "I don't know," Nari admitted. "Our probes can't. They touch this barrier, and they stop existing. But maybe a manned ship, with living beings making choices in real time, might be different." The chamber erupted in arguments. Some delegates demanded immediate military action. Others wanted to seal off human space and forget about it. A few suggested that humanity had done this to themselves, some kind of mass experiment that went wrong. Ji-won listened to all of them and felt frustration building in her chest. Enough. She called out, her voice cutting through the noise. The humans are our allies, our friends. We've traded with them, learned from them, laughed with them. We can't just abandon them because we're scared. An old ambassador from the Shen Collective shook his head. But what if they're already gone? What if there's nothing left to save? Jiwan looked at Hyunwoo. Then we need to know. We need to see with our own eyes. I volunteer to lead an expedition into human space. A small team, carefully chosen. We go in, we find out what happened, and we report back. Hyunwoo studied her for a long moment. It could be a death sentence. You understand that? I understand, Jiwan said. But we owe them this much. How many times have humans helped us? How many times have they shared their technology, their food, their music? We can't just let them disappear without trying to understand why. Minho stepped forward again. I'll go with her. I want to see the data sources directly. Maybe there are answers in their computer systems. Nari's glow brightened. I'll join too. This energy phenomenon needs someone who understands exotic physics. More volunteers raised their hands. Somin, a security officer known for her bravery. Dayan, a pilot who had flown with human crews for years. Taeyeon, a xenobiologist who specialized in understanding different forms of life. Within minutes, Jiwan had her team. Hyunwoo looked at them all. Very well. You'll take the Horizon's Edge. It's our fastest scout ship. You'll approach human space carefully. If anything seems dangerous, you turn back immediately. Is that clear? They all nodded dot as the meeting ended, and the delegates filed out. Still arguing among themselves, Jiwan stood looking at the screens. The swirling energy patterns at the edge of human space seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Somewhere beyond that barrier, billions of humans were. What? Dead? Hiding? Transformed into something else? She thought about her human friends. Hana, who had taught her to appreciate coffee despite its bitter taste. James, who made everyone laugh with his terrible jokes. Maria, who always said that humanity's greatest strength was their refusal to give up, no matter how bad things got. We're coming, Jiwan whispered to the screen. Whatever happened to you, we're coming to find out. Behind her, Minho was already organizing equipment lists. Nari was calculating energy shield configurations. The team was forming, preparing for a journey into the unknown. In 3 days, they would launch toward human space, toward the mysterious barrier that had swallowed an entire species. None of them knew that what they would find would change the galaxy forever. They only knew they had to try, because that's what friends did. They showed up, even when it was scary, even when it might be too late. They showed up anyway. The Horizon's Edge was a beautiful ship, sleek and silver, built for speed and stealth. Dayon ran his hands over the controls in the cockpit, checking every system 3 times. He had flown for 20 years, but this mission felt different. This mission felt like flying into a ghost story. Jiwan stood behind him, watching the stars through the front viewport. Beside her, Somin checked her weapons. The security officer was quiet, always watching, always ready. She carried 3 different types of energy weapons, and a blade made from crystallized starlight. If there's trouble, I'll handle it, she had said during the briefing. No one doubted her dot at the back of the ship. Taeyun was setting up his laboratory equipment. The xenobiologist was excited despite the danger. Imagine, he kept saying, we might discover something completely new, something no one has ever seen before. His enthusiasm was infectious, but also a little scary. Jiwan hoped he would be careful. Minho sat at the communication station, surrounded by screens showing data streams. He had barely slept since they left Meridian Prime. The last transmission from New Soul Colony was a cooking show, he said quietly. A woman was teaching people how to make soup. She was smiling. Then the screen just went black. Nari floated near the engine room, her transparent body glowing brighter when she was thinking hard. The energy readings are getting stronger. We're close to the barrier. Doyen's hands moved across the controls. Everyone strap in. We're approaching human space. This might get rough. The ship slowed as they reached the border. Through the viewport, space itself looked wrong. It rippled and twisted, like looking at the world through water. Colors that shouldn't exist danced in patterns that made Jiwan's eyes hurt. "Taking us through," Doyen said. His voice was steady, but Jiwan could see his hands shaking slightly. The moment they crossed the barrier, everything went wrong. The lights flickered. Alarms screamed. The ship lurched sideways, throwing everyone against the restraints. Screens exploded in showers of sparks. The artificial gravity failed, then came back too strong, then failed again. "I can't control her," Doyen shouted, fighting with the controls. "We're going down." Through the chaos, Jiwan saw a planet rushing up to meet them. Green and blue with white clouds. New Sol, a colony world they had been aiming for. But they weren't landing. They were crashing. The ship hit the atmosphere hard. Fire streamed past the viewport. Metal screamed as the hull heated up. Doyen managed to get partial control back, just enough to turn their crash into something they might survive. They hit the ground in an open field outside a city, tearing a long scar through the grass before finally stopping. For a moment, no one moved. Then Solman unstrapped and checked everyone for injuries. Bruises and small cuts. But everyone was alive. "We're lucky," she said. "That could have been much worse." They gathered their emergency equipment and opened the hatch. The air that rushed in was perfect. Clean and fresh, with a slight smell of flowers. The sky was blue with 2 small moons visible even in daylight. Everything looked normal. Beautiful even, except it was completely silent. They walked toward the city, which rose up against the horizon about 2 kilometers away. As they got closer, Jiwan felt a chill run through her body. The city looked perfect. Buildings stood tall and clean. Streets were neat. Gardens were maintained. But there was no movement. No sound except the wind. When they entered the streets, the horror became real. A car sat in the middle of the road, its door open, engines still running. A cup of coffee sat on a cafe table, still warm. Inside a house, dinner plates were set on a table, food half-eaten. A child's toy lay on the sidewalk, abandoned mid-play. "Where are they?" Minho whispered. "Where did everyone go?" Taeyun knelt beside a garden where strange crystals grew among the flowers. They were beautiful, catching the light and breaking it into rainbow patterns. They pulsed with a soft glow, like a heartbeat. "These aren't natural. They're technology, but unlike anything I've seen." Nari approached the crystals carefully, scanning them with her devices. The same energy signature as the barrier. These crystals are generating it. Or maybe they're part of it. Look, they're everywhere. She was right. Now that they knew what to look for, they could see the crystals growing throughout the city. In parks, on buildings, even growing through windows. All of them pulsing in the same rhythm. G. One led the team to the colony's administrative center. The doors were unlocked. Inside, computer terminals still glowed with active displays. Minho rushed to them, his fingers flying across keyboards. The system is still running. Everything is automated. Power plants, water treatment, climate control. All working perfectly without any human operators. He pulled up logs and recordings. Here, 3 weeks ago. There's a message that went out to every human in the galaxy. He played it. A calm voice spoke. "This is a priority message to all of humanity. We have detected an approach. Something is coming. Something old. We don't know what it wants. Stand by for updates. More logs. More messages. Each one showing growing confusion, then understanding, then something else. Something Jiwan couldn't quite identify. Was it fear? Or was it excitement? The final log was dated 3 hours before the silence. It was a video message. A woman appeared on screen, sitting at a desk. She looked calm. Too calm. To anyone who finds this, she said, we've made contact. We understand now. We're not in danger. We're being offered a choice. Most of us have decided to accept. We're going to change, evolve, become something more. If you're watching this, it means we're already gone. Don't be sad. We're not dying. We're just becoming something you can't follow. Not yet. Maybe someday. The screen went black. That's it, Minnow said. That's the last thing anyone recorded. Night was falling. They decided to stay in the administrative building. Somin set up a perimeter with motion sensors. Doyan tried to repair their communication equipment, to call for help, but nothing worked. The barrier was blocking all signals. G1 couldn't sleep. She stood at a window, looking out at the dark city. The crystals glowed brighter in the darkness, pulsing like stars. She thought about the woman's words. Become something you can't follow. What did that mean? Where were the humans? A movement caught her eye. Something was moving in the streets below. A shadow, darker than the night around it. Then another, and another. Shapes were moving through the city, coming closer to the building. Somin, Jiwan called quietly. We have company. The security officer was instantly alert, weapon in hand. How many? I can't tell. They're hard to see. The team gathered at the windows, watching the shapes approach. They moved strangely, sometimes there, sometimes not, like they were flickering in and out of existence. As they came closer, the crystals pulsed brighter, faster. One of the shapes stopped directly under their window. Slowly, it became more solid, more real. It was a person. A human woman with dark hair, wearing simple clothes. But her eyes glowed with the same light as the crystals. She looked up at them and smiled. Then she spoke, her voice clear despite the distance. You came looking for us. That's kind. Come down. It's time we talked. Somin aimed her weapon at the woman below. Don't move, she called down. Identify yourself. The woman with glowing eyes tilted her head, like she was listening to something only she could hear. My name is Houn. I was a teacher here before the change. Now I'm something else. But I'm still me, if that makes sense. It didn't make sense. Nothing about this made sense. Jiwan made a decision. We're coming down, but slowly. And my security officer will have her weapon ready. I understand, Houn said. You're scared. That's okay. We were scared too at first. They descended the stairs carefully. Somin went first, weapon raised. Then Jiwan, then the others. When they reached the ground floor and stepped outside, Houn was waiting exactly where she had been. The other shadows had stopped moving, forming a circle around the building, but keeping their distance. Up close, Houn looked almost normal. Almost. Her skin had a slight shimmer to it, like oil on water. Her eyes glowed softly, not bright enough to hurt, but enough to be unnatural. When she moved, sometimes she seemed to blur at the edges, like reality couldn't quite hold on to her completely. You're still human, Taeyan said, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. But you're also something else. Yes, Houn agreed. That's a good way to describe it. I'm human, but I'm also more than human, or different from human. The words don't really work anymore. Ji-Wan stepped forward. What happened to everyone? Where are the other humans? Hound gestured around them. They're here, everywhere, just not in a way you can see easily. Not yet. Would you like me to explain? It's a long story. They sat in the plaza outside the administrative building. Hound sat on a bench. The others stayed standing, ready to run if needed. The shadow figures remained at a distance, watching but not approaching. 3 weeks ago, Hound began, we detected something entering our region of space. It was old, older than our galaxy, older than most galaxies. We called it the Architects because that's what it told us to call it. Not them. It, a single consciousness, vast beyond understanding. An alien intelligence? Minho asked, his analyst mind already trying to categorize it. More than that. The Architects exist in dimensions we didn't know existed. They move through space and time like we move through air. They've been watching the galaxy for billions of years, waiting for species to reach a certain point of development. Nari's glow intensified with excitement. What point? The point where a species understands that physical existence is limiting. That consciousness could be more than just electrical signals in a brain made of meat. The Architects offered humanity a choice. Stay as we are, or evolve, transcend, become something that exists in multiple dimensions at once. Summon's grip tightened on her weapon. That sounds like an invasion. Like they changed you against your will. No, Hyun's voice was firm. That's the important part. It was a choice. Every single human heard the offer in their minds at the same moment. We all understood what it meant, what we would lose, and what we might gain. And each of us chose for ourselves. How many chose to change? Ji-Wan asked. Almost everyone. 99.8%. Some didn't, like me. We chose to stay behind, to serve as bridges between what humanity was and what it's become. To explain to people like you what happened. Doyan had been quiet, but now he spoke. I had friends here. Human friends. Good people. Are you telling me they're gone? Just gone? Not gone, Hound said gently. Changed. They're still here, still themselves. But they exist differently now. They can experience things you can't imagine. Colors that don't exist in 3 dimensions. Emotions that require more than a physical brain to feel. Time moves differently for them. They can see the past and future like you see a painting, all at once. Show us, Taeyun demanded. Show us proof. Hound stood and walked to the center of the plaza. She knelt and touched the ground. Crystals began to grow where her fingers pressed, spreading out in patterns. These crystals are part of the transformation technology. They're anchors, holding the changed humans to this dimension so they don't drift away completely. Come, I'll show you where it happened. She led them through the quiet streets to a large building. It had been a community center, with wide halls and open spaces. Inside, the walls were covered in crystals, forming intricate patterns that seemed to shift when you weren't looking directly at them. In the center of the main hall stood dozens of arches, made entirely of the glowing crystals. They hummed with power, creating harmonics that Ji-Wan could feel in her bones. These are the transformation portals, Hound explained. People walked through them, one by one or in families, holding hands. On the other side, they became something new. Minho was recording everything with his equipment. Can they come back? Can they choose to become human again? Hyun's expression became sad. I don't know. They say they could, but they don't want to. Imagine you spent your whole life in a dark room, and then someone gave you eyes for the first time. Would you want to go back to darkness? That's how they describe it. Being human again would feel like cutting off most of who they are now. This is insane, Soman muttered. An entire species just decided to abandon everything they were? Not abandon, Hound corrected. Evolve, grow. Humanity always wanted to be more. We reached for the stars because we wanted to see what was out there. This is just the next step. Instead of exploring outer space, we're exploring inner space. The spaces between dimensions. The hidden layers of reality. Taeyun approached one of the portals carefully, scanning it with his devices. The energy output is enormous. And it's growing. These portals are getting stronger. Yes, Hound said. The transformation is spreading. Not forcing anyone, but offering the choice to others. Eventually, the crystals will grow across all of human space. Other species will start to encounter them. And then they'll have to decide for themselves. Ji-Wan felt a chill. Decide what? Whether to evolve too. The architects are patient. They'll wait. They'll offer the choice to every species that reaches the right point of development. In 100 years, maybe 1,000, your people might hear the same offer we did. The implications were staggering. Ji-Wan's mind raced. We need to tell the council. They need to know this isn't an attack. But they also need to understand the danger. If people start seeking out these portals, trying to transform themselves without understanding what they're giving up? Exactly, Hound said. That's why I stayed. To explain. To warn. To help others understand. The choice must be informed. The architects insist on that. No one can be tricked or forced. But once the choice is made, it's permanent. One of the shadow figures approached, becoming more solid. It looked like a young man, maybe 20 years old. His eyes glowed like Heon's. We should go back soon, he said to her. The separation is starting to hurt. Hound nodded. These are others like me. We can only stay in full physical form for a few hours at a time. Then we need to return to the other state, at least partially. It's hard to exist in both worlds at once. Somin finally lowered her weapon. You're really not a threat, are you? You're just different. We're really not a threat, Hound confirmed. But we're also no longer exactly what we were. We're the bridge. The ones who chose to stand between two forms of existence. It's lonely sometimes, but necessary. Ji-Wan looked at her team. They were all processing what they'd learned, trying to understand the impossible. We need to get back to Meridian Prime. The council needs to hear this directly from you, Hound. Will you come with us? Hound smiled. I'll come. I was hoping you'd ask. The galaxy needs to understand. Humanity didn't die. We didn't leave because we were afraid or because we were conquered. We chose to become something more. And someday, others will have to choose too. As they walked back through the dark city toward their damaged ship, Ji-Wan looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the barrier, billions of transformed humans existed in dimensions she couldn't see or understand. They were still alive, still conscious, still themselves in some way. But they were also gone from the world she knew. The galaxy had changed. And somehow, Ji-Wan knew it would never change back. The repair of the horizon's edge took 3 days. Do-Yun worked constantly, replacing burned circuits and damaged hull plates. Hound helped them, her transformed abilities letting her work in ways that seemed impossible. She could reach into tight spaces by making her hands partially not there, could see electrical problems by perceiving energy directly. It was unsettling to watch, but effective. When they finally lifted off from New Seoul, leaving behind the crystal-covered city, Ji-Wan felt relieved to be heading home, but also afraid. Afraid of what would happen when the galaxy learned the truth. The journey back through the barrier was smoother. Hound stood in the cockpit, her glowing eyes focusing on something the others couldn't see. I'm asking them to let us through, she explained. The architects control the barrier. They're allowing us passage Because I vouch for you. Convenient, Soman muttered, but she was less hostile to Hound now. 3 days of working together had built a strange kind of trust. When they arrived at Meridian Prime, they were met by security ships and weapons locked on them. Director Hyan Wu's voice came through the radio, tense and suspicious. Horizon's Edge, you've been gone for 2 weeks. We'd almost given up hope. State your status and purpose for bringing an unknown entity onto the station. Director, Ji-Wan replied calmly, we found a human. She has answers. The Council needs to hear what she has to say. The security escort brought them to a docking bay that was heavily guarded. Soman went first, then gestured that it was safe. Hound stepped out into the artificial gravity of the station, her eyes adjusting to the harsh lights. Hundreds of different species watched her from behind security barriers, their various eyes wide with fear and curiosity. The council chamber was packed. Every delegate was present, plus dozens of observers and media representatives. News of their return had spread quickly. Ji-Wan saw fear on many faces, hope on others, then cold calculation on a few. Hyun Woo stood at his podium, his scales dark with stress. Ambassador Ji-Wan, report. She did. She told them everything. The empty cities, the crystals, the portals, the transformation. The delegates listened in complete silence. When she finished, the chamber exploded into noise. Impossible, shouted a delegate from the insectoid Vrex species. An entire species doesn't just vanish into thin air. They didn't vanish, Nari interjected, her glow pulsing with frustration. They evolved. The energy signatures prove it. They're still there, just existing in ways we can't normally perceive. Then they're dead to us, declared General Juno of the Kreth Empire. His red eyes gleamed with opportunity. Their territories are abandoned. According to galactic law, unclaimed space is open for colonization. Other delegates nodded. Some species saw human space as valuable real estate, full of developed worlds and functioning infrastructure. The fact that humanity had willingly left it behind meant nothing to them. No one is claiming human space, Hyun-Woo said firmly. Not until we fully understand this situation. Let me speak, Han said quietly. The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the human woman with glowing eyes. She walked to the center of the floor, visible to everyone. Some delegates shrank back from her. Others leaned forward, fascinated. I am Han. I was human. I chose to remain partially human to serve as a bridge. My people are not gone. We are changed. We exist now in ways you cannot see, but we are still here. Still aware. Still caring about what happens to the galaxy we called home. Prove it, demanded a skeptical delegate. Show us these transformed humans. Hound closed her eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the air in the chamber began to shimmer. Shapes formed, translucent and ghostly at first, then becoming more solid. Dozens of them. Hundreds. All humans, all with glowing eyes, all present but not quite there. The delegates gasped. Some screamed. Security officers raised weapons, but didn't fire. The transformed humans looked around the chamber with expressions of wonder and sadness. One of them, a young woman, approached a Velthran delegate who began to cry. Sun-Hee? The delegate whispered. Is that you? Hello, Ambassador Miran, the transformed human said, her voice echoing strangely. I'm sorry I left without saying goodbye. There wasn't time to explain. Can you come back? Miran begged. Can you be human again? Sun-Hee shook her head sadly. I could, but I don't want to. You can't understand what it's like, Miran. I can see everything now. All of time, all at once. I can feel the heartbeat of stars. I can think in colors that don't exist in your world. Going back to just being human would be like cutting off most of my mind. I'm sorry. Across the chamber, similar conversations were happening. Transformed humans speaking to old friends, colleagues, loved ones, explaining, apologizing, but also making it clear that they would not be coming back. And they faded, becoming translucent again, and vanished. Hound opened her eyes, looking tired. That takes a lot of energy. They can't stay in your dimension for long. But they wanted you to know they're still real. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Elder Yuna of the Lumine floated forward. She was ancient, her transparent body barely glowing anymore. I have studied dimensional theory for 300 years. This is what we always theorized was possible. Evolution beyond physical form. It's beautiful. It's dangerous, countered General Junho. What if they decide to force others to transform? What if this spreads uncontrollably? The architects don't force anyone, Haun explained patiently. The choice must be willing and informed. No one can be tricked or coerced. But yes, the transformation technology is spreading. The crystals grow on every world humans inhabited. Eventually, other species will encounter them, and they'll have to decide. Minho, who had been analyzing data during the meeting, stood up suddenly. Director, I'm detecting unauthorized travel to human space. Several ships have left their home ports and are heading toward the barrier. Haiyan Wu's scales darkened further. What? Who authorized this? No one. They're private ships. Civilians. Word must have gotten out about what we found. Jiwan felt her stomach sink. Of course. As soon as people heard about transformation, about evolution, about the possibility of becoming something more, some would rush toward it. We need to stop them. They don't understand what they're giving up. But it was too late. Over the next few days, dozens of ships entered human space. Most were turned back by the barrier, but some got through. And some of those who got through found the portals. Found the choice. One of them was Sungi, a young council delegate from a species called the Thren. She had always been curious, always pushing boundaries. She took her personal ship, avoided the security patrols, and made it to one of the human worlds. When she returned a week later, her eyes glowed. She had transformed. The council was in chaos. Sungi stood before them, trying to explain what she had experienced, but the words came out wrong. It's like, imagine you've been looking at a painting your whole life, and then suddenly you're inside the painting, but also outside it, seeing all the brushstrokes that made it. And also you're seeing every other painting that could have been made with those same colors. And you're all of those paintings at once. No one understood. How could they? You couldn't explain what it was like to exist in multiple dimensions to someone who only knew 3. General Junho tried to have Sungi arrested, claiming she was a threat to public safety. But she simply stepped sideways and wasn't there anymore. She could move between dimensions now, appearing and disappearing at will. The guards couldn't hold something that wasn't entirely in their reality. Protests erupted across the galaxy. Some species demanded that human space be quarantined completely, the crystals destroyed, the portals sealed. Others wanted free access, arguing that every being had the right to seek transformation if they chose. Religious groups declared it, either holy ascension or demonic corruption, depending on their beliefs. Ji-1 watched the chaos from her quarters, feeling helpless. The galaxy was tearing itself apart over this choice. Over humanity's choice. Hound came to visit her one evening. The transformed human sat on Ji-1's couch, her glow soft in the dim light. I'm sorry, she said. We knew this would be difficult, but we hoped people would be more accepting. They're scared, Ji-1 replied. Fear makes people do stupid things. What about you? Are you scared? Ji-1 thought about it. Yes, but also curious. And sad? Humanity was our friend, our partner in exploring the galaxy. Now you're leaving us behind, going somewhere we can't follow. Not yet, Hound said gently. The architects will offer the choice to other species when they're ready. Maybe in your lifetime, maybe not. But eventually, everyone will have to decide. Stay as you are, or evolve into something new. What would you tell someone trying to make that choice? Han was quiet for a long time. I would tell them that you lose things. Your body, your physical connections, your ability to taste food or feel rain. But you gain so much more. Knowledge, understanding, a way of existing that makes your old life seem like a dream. Is it worth it? I can't answer that for anyone else. But for most humans, it was. Hyun-woo called an emergency vote the next day. The question was simple. Should the galaxy allow free access to human space, or should it be sealed off? The debate lasted for hours. Finally, they voted. The result was narrow, but clear. Human space would be declared neutral territory. Anyone could approach it, but no one would be encouraged or discouraged from seeking transformation. Each being would have to make their own choice. We'll call it the threshold, Hyun-woo announced. The boundary between what we are and what we might become. It will be watched, studied, but not controlled. As the meeting ended, Ji-won saw Do-yeon standing near a window, staring out at the stars. She knew that look. She'd seen it before, on people who were making difficult decisions. She walked over and stood beside him. I'm going back, he said quietly. To the threshold. I want to see. Maybe even ... double quotes, he trailed off. I know, Ji-won said. She wanted to stop him, but what right did she have? Will you come back? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. He turned to look at her. They were my friends, Ji-won, the human crews I flew with. If they've gone somewhere amazing, somewhere wonderful, I want to see it too. Even if it means I can't come back. She hugged him, her 4 arms wrapping around his shoulders. Then go, but remember us. Remember this galaxy. We'll miss you. I'll remember, Do-yeon promised. However I change, I'll remember. 6 months passed. 6 months that changed the galaxy in ways no one could have predicted. Ji-won stood at the window of Research Station Threshold 1, watching ships come and go. The station floated at the edge of what used to be human space, now officially designated as the Threshold. Minho had helped design it, and now he led a team of scientists studying the phenomenon of transformation. Every day, they learned something new. Every day, they understood a little less. Another 7 ships arrived this morning, Minho said, joining her at the window. He looked tired. He always looked tired these days. 4 Luminae, 2 Vrex, and 1 Thren, all wanting to speak with the transformed, all trying to decide. How many have chosen transformation so far? 3,412 beings from 68 different species. It's growing exponentially. Word spreads. People talk about the wonders they've experienced. Others get curious. Ji-won watched a small ship approach one of the crystal-covered planets. What about the ones who chose not to? Do we track them too? We try. Most leave quietly, returning to their lives. But some become advocates, traveling the galaxy warning others not to transform. They call it a trap, a trick, even though there's no evidence of that. Fear is powerful. A notification appeared on the Windows display. Minho read it and sighed. Another delegation from the Kreth Empire. General Junho wants to test weapons against the crystals again. He's done that 5 times already. The crystals can't be destroyed. They exist in multiple dimensions. Weapons that work in our reality just pass through them. I know. But he keeps trying. The Kreths see this as a threat. They've sealed their borders, forbidding their citizens from approaching the threshold. Anyone who tries is arrested. Other species had made different choices. The Luminae welcomed transformation, seeing it as spiritual enlightenment. Dozens of their elders had already crossed over. The Peaceful Harmony Collective had declared the threshold holy ground, building shrines at its borders. The logical Shen people studied it with pure scientific interest, neither encouraging nor discouraging transformation, simply documenting everything. Jiwan's own people, the Velthrins, were divided. Their government officially discouraged transformation, but didn't forbid it. Every Velthrin citizen had the right to make their own choice. So far, about 200 had chosen to transform, including Jiwan's cousin, Sumin, who she missed terribly. "We have a new interview scheduled," Minho said, checking his tablet. "A transformed human named Yejin. She agreed to speak with us about her experience." They walked to the interview room, a space designed to accommodate both physical and non-physical beings. Yejin appeared slowly, her form becoming solid in the center of the room. She had been a scientist before transformation. Jiwan remembered from the briefing notes. Now she existed in ways science barely understood. "Thank you for speaking with us," Jiwan said formally. Yejin smiled. Her eyes glowed with that familiar light, and when she moved, reality seemed to bend slightly around her. "I wanted to help others understand, even though I know I can't really explain it. The words don't exist." "Tell us what you can," Minho encouraged, recording devices active. "Before transformation, I thought I understood the universe. I was a physicist. I studied stars and gravity and energy. But it was like studying shadows on a wall and thinking you understand light." Yejin's voice had a strange quality, like multiple voices speaking in harmony. "Now I can see the light directly. I can see how dimensions fold into each other, how consciousness is woven into the fabric of space-time, how every moment exists simultaneously across all possible timelines. Do you regret it?" Jiwan asked. "Giving up your physical body?" Yejin considered this carefully. "Sometimes I miss simple things. The taste of kimchi, the feeling of rain on skin, hugging my mother, who chose not to transform. But those losses are tiny compared to what I gained. It's like, imagine you spent your whole life in a small room, and someone offered to remove the walls. Yes, you lose the familiar comfort of the room, but you gain everything outside it. Can you interact with the physical world? Partially. I can manifest temporarily, like I'm doing now. I can move objects by existing in the right dimensional layer. But it's difficult. It's like trying to manipulate something while wearing thick gloves. The physical world feels distant now, like a dream I once had." Minho leaned forward. "What about communication? Can you still talk to the other transformed beings?" "Talk isn't the right word. We share consciousness sometimes. We experience each other's perspectives directly. Imagine knowing exactly what another person thinks and feels, not through words, but through direct experience. There's no lying, no misunderstanding. We exist together in ways that are more intimate than physical beings can achieve." "That sounds like losing yourself," Jiwan said quietly. "If you share consciousness with others, how do you know where you end and they begin?" Yejin's smile was sad. "That's the hardest part to explain. We do maintain individual identity, but it's more fluid now. I'm still me, but I'm also connected to everyone else who has transformed. We're individuals, and we're also part of something larger. Both things are true at once." The interview lasted 2 hours. Yejin answered every question patiently, trying to bridge the gap between physical and non-physical existence. But when she finally faded away, returning to whatever reality she now inhabited, Jiwan felt more confused than enlightened. How do we make a fair choice when we can't truly understand what we're choosing? She asked Minho. I don't think we can, he admitted. The choice requires faith, trust, a willingness to leap into the unknown. Some people have that. Some don't. That evening, Ji-won walked to Docking Bay 7. Do-yeon's ship was scheduled to depart. He had spent the last 6 months working at the station, but everyone knew he was building up courage for something. Building up to making his choice. He was doing final checks on his ship when she arrived. He looked up and smiled, but it was a sad smile. You came to say goodbye. I came to see you off, Ji-won corrected. Where you go after, that is your choice. Do-yeon set down his tools and walked over to her. I'm scared, he admitted. Terrified, actually. What if I make the wrong choice? What if I transform and regret it? What if I don't transform and spend the rest of my life wondering what I missed? Those are the questions we all face, Ji-won said. But I trust you to know your own heart. Whatever you decide, it will be the right choice for you. They stood together in silence for a while, two friends who had been through impossible things together. Finally, Do-yeon hugged her. Thank you. For everything. For being brave enough to go looking for humanity in the first place. For treating us like the mystery was worth solving instead of something to fear. Of course, it was worth solving. You were our friends. You still are, in whatever form you take. Do-yeon boarded his ship. Ji-won watched from the observation window as he launched, his engines bright against the darkness of space. His course was set for New Seoul, the first human world they had visited all those months ago. The place where the portals waited Dot. She didn't know if she would ever see him again. 3 days later, a message arrived at the station. It was marked as coming from the threshold itself, from beyond the barrier. Ji-won opened it with trembling hands. The screen showed Do-yeon, but not Do-yeon as she remembered him. His eyes glowed. His form flickered between solid and translucent. He was smiling. Ji-won, his voice said, with that strange harmonic quality all the transformed had. I did it. I walked through the portal. I transformed. And Ji-won, it's amazing. More amazing than anything I imagined. I can see you right now, even though you're light years away. I can see your worry, your sadness at losing me. But I'm not lost. I'm just different. I'm more. I wanted to tell you something. Something important. The architects gave me permission to share this. The choice will come to the Velthrons soon. Within your lifetime. Maybe within the next few years. They're watching your species, seeing if you're ready. Some of you are. Some of you aren't, but the offer will be made. When it comes, remember this. There's no wrong choice. Staying as you are is valid. It's beautiful and meaningful. The physical universe is full of wonders that the transformed leave behind. But evolving is also valid. It's an adventure into realms that physical beings can't imagine. Whatever you choose, I'll be here. All of us who transformed will be here waiting. Not pushing. Not judging. Just waiting. For when you're ready. The message ended. Ji-won sat staring at the blank screen for a long time. She thought about humanity. About how they had always been restless. Always seeking, always wanting more. It made sense that when offered the chance to become something greater, most of them would take it. They fell silent, not because they died, but because they went somewhere voices couldn't follow. She thought about the galaxy, about all the different species making their own choices. Some embracing transformation, some rejecting it, some still trying to decide. There would be conflicts ahead, misunderstandings, fear, but also growth, discovery, evolution in ways that went beyond just biology. Ji-won stood and walked back to the window. Beyond the station, the threshold pulsed with light. Crystals covering dozens of worlds, each one an anchor point between dimensions. each one a doorway to something new. She reached out and placed her hand against the cold window. The crystals were so far away, but somehow she felt like she could almost touch them, could almost sense the transformed beings existing in layers of reality she couldn't see. "We're waiting," Doyan had said. "When you're ready." Was she ready? Jiwan didn't know. Not yet, maybe not ever. But the choice was there. The possibility. And somehow, that was enough. Behind her, Mino entered the room. Another ship just arrived. A Velthran ship. Your friend Haijin from the diplomatic corps. She says she wants to see the portals. Jiwan turned to face him. Does she want to transform? She says she's just curious. Just looking. But we both know how these things start. They did. Curiosity, wonder, questions. And then, for some, the leap into the unknown. "I'll talk to her," Jiwan said. "I'll tell her what we know, what the transformed have shared. And then she'd decide for herself." As she walked to the docking bay to meet Haijin, Jiwan realized something. Humanity's silence had created a mystery that brought the galaxy together in ways war and commerce never could. Every species had to confront the same fundamental question. What does it mean to exist? What could existence become? There were no easy answers. There might never be answers at all. But the question itself was important. It made people think, made them choose, made them define themselves by what they valued most. Humanity had fallen silent. But in that silence, they had started a conversation that would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. A conversation about identity, evolution, and the courage to change, or the courage to stay the same. Both required bravery. Both deserved respect, and the choice always would remain a choice.